What makes a nation unconquerable? Some point to armies, others to wealth. But Greece holds a different secret. A land of stone and sea where geography itself becomes a weapon. Where invaders from Persia to Nazi Germany discovered that victory here is never simple. For centuries, empires have marched in with overwhelming force, only to be slowed, bled, and undone. Why does this small corner of Europe defy giants? Why does history bend when Greece is attacked? You are watching Aegean, where history speaks. The fortress of mountains. Greece begins not with cities or seas, but with mountains. Towering ridges cut the land into isolated valleys, and steep cliffs rise like stone walls across the horizon. Nearly 80% of the country is covered by mountains, making Greece the most mountainous nation in Europe. For an invader, this means the battlefield is never open and clear. Every step forward narrows into a pass, a gorge, or a plateau where defenders can wait unseen. The Pindus Mountains, often called the spine of Greece, run down the heart of the land like a natural fortress. History has shown again and again how these ridges can break the will of invading armies. In World War II, Mussolini's Italy marched in expecting an easy conquest. Instead, Greek defenders dug into the snowbound Pindus passes, using the terrain to push back and even encircle Italian divisions. What should have been a swift campaign turned into humiliation, all because the mountains fought on Greece's side. But this was not new. Centuries earlier, the same landscape had forced mighty Persian armies into narrow choke points, stripping away the advantage of overwhelming numbers. The geography of Greece does not simply resist, it transforms small forces into giants, and giants into stumbling, exhausted prey. For an invader, the mountains of Greece are not just obstacles. They are traps, funnels, and ambush grounds that make every campaign slower, harsher, and bloodier than expected. And this is only the first barrier, because once the mountains end, the seas begin. Seas that hold their own dangers. The Sea of Islands. If the mountains guard Greece on land, the sea defends it from every direction. Stretching across the Aegean and Ionian, over 3,000 islands and islets scatter like stepping stones, forming one of the most complex maritime landscapes in the world. To an invader, this looks like open water. In truth, it is a labyrinth. Every strait is a choke point. Every channel can become a trap. For thousands of years, Greek sailors have known how to use this fractured coastline to their advantage. Ancient triremes once darted between narrow waters to outmaneuver Persian ships. In later centuries, Ottoman fleets struggled to tame the countless bays and coves where defenders could vanish, strike, and vanish again. Even today, naval strategists warn that an enemy fleet would face a nightmare scenario, forced to fight island by island, never able to control the sea as a whole. Modern defense planners describe the Aegean as a sea of fortresses. Missile batteries on rocky islands can deny access to entire regions. Submarines lurking beneath the waves turn narrow channels into kill zones, and small patrol vessels moving quickly between islands can strike like ghosts before disappearing into the maze. Invaders may hope to bypass the mountains by landing from the sea, but here, geography closes the door once more. The islands do not stand alone. They connect with the mainland, forming a unified defense system where one stronghold supports the next. To fight here is to step into a chessboard where Greece always seems to have the better move. And as history shows, when geography and determination combine, even the greatest empires can falter, which is exactly what Persia discovered when it marched west. Persia meets the land of traps. When the Persian Empire set its sights on Greece, it seemed inevitable that the small, scattered city-states would be crushed. The armies of Darius and later Xerxes stretched across continents, numbering in the hundreds of thousands. Against them stood a patchwork of Greek defenders, fractured by rivalries and outnumbered beyond imagination. By sheer size alone, Persia should have triumphed easily, yet the land of Greece had other plans. In 480 BC, the Persians reached a narrow coastal pass called Thermopylae. Here, King Leonidas and a few thousand Greeks, including the legendary 300 Spartans, made their stand. The pass was so tight that the Persians could not bring their vast numbers to bear. Instead of overwhelming the Greeks, they were funneled into a bottleneck where their advantage vanished. For days, the defenders held the line, buying precious time for the rest of Greece to prepare. Thermopylae fell only through betrayal, but by then, it had already proven how terrain could elevate courage into legend. Not long after, the Persians turned to the sea, hoping to crush Greek resistance in a single decisive naval battle. But the Greeks lured them into the Straits of Salamis, a narrow stretch of water where their massive fleet became trapped. Hemmed in and unable to maneuver, Persian ships fell into chaos as smaller, faster Greek triremes rammed and destroyed them. What should have been Persia's triumph became its downfall. The Persians had brought overwhelming force, yet Greece had answered with mountains and straits, passes and traps. Geography became the equalizer, and strategy turned weakness into strength. The greatest empire of its age was humbled, and a lesson was written into history. In Greece, numbers alone do not guarantee victory. But this was not the last time an empire would underestimate the land of stone and sea. More than 2,000 years later, Mussolini's Italy would learn the same painful lesson. Italy's humiliation, Germany's delay. Centuries after Persia's defeat, another empire tried its luck against Greece. In 1940, Benito Mussolini boasted that his Italian forces would conquer Greece in a matter of days. His armies marched from Albania with confidence, expecting little resistance. Instead, they found themselves trapped in the snowbound ridges of the Pindus Mountains. Greek defenders, outnumbered and outgunned, used the harsh terrain as their greatest ally. They counterattacked through narrow passes, cutting off supply lines and surrounding Italy's elite Alpine division. Soldiers trained for mountain warfare were themselves undone by the unforgiving landscape. Within weeks, Mussolini's pride had turned into humiliation as Greek forces pushed his armies back into Albania. The embarrassment forced Adolf Hitler to intervene. In April 1941, Germany launched Operation Marita, committing tanks, mechanized divisions, and paratroopers to subdue Greece. The Wehrmacht eventually overwhelmed the defenders, but victory came at a heavy price. The campaign dragged on far longer than expected, costing Germany precious weeks in the spring of 1941. Those weeks changed history. Because of the delay in Greece, Hitler's Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of the Soviet Union, began later than planned. The German army was still deep in Russian territory when the brutal winter struck. Without that delay, Moscow might have fallen. Instead, the Nazis stalled in the snow, and many historians trace that turning point back to Greece's stubborn resistance. What began as a small campaign in the Balkans had ripple effects across the entire world. Once again, Greece's rugged land and unyielding spirit had shaped the course of history. But terrain and timing were not the only weapons. To truly understand why Greece cannot be held, we must look beyond geography, into the soul of a people shaped by centuries of defiance. Geography may slow an invader, but it is the spirit of a people that makes conquest unbearable. In Greece, resistance is not just a tactic, it is a tradition woven through centuries of struggle. During the long centuries of Ottoman rule, Greek fighters known as klefts waged guerrilla war from mountain hideouts, striking swiftly before vanishing into the rugged terrain. Their songs and legends kept alive the dream of freedom, so that when the War of Independence began in the 1820s, an entire nation rose with fire already burning in its memory. That same spirit reappeared in the 20th century. After Germany occupied Greece in World War II, resistance movements sprang up across the countryside. Farmers became partisans, towns became strongholds, and entire villages risked everything to sabotage railways, ambush convoys, and smuggle intelligence. For the occupiers, there was no peace. Even with overwhelming military power, they could never truly rest. This cultural memory of defiance means that invasion in Greece is never just about defeating an army. It is about facing a population that refuses to submit. From the Spartans at Thermopylae to the guerrillas in the Pindus, the story repeats: Greece is defended not only by walls of stone, but by hearts that will not surrender. For any would-be conqueror, this creates a nightmare scenario. Victory on the battlefield means little if the land itself hides rebels, and every village becomes a front line. The mountains and islands may be Greece's shield, but its people are the unbreakable core. And in the modern era, this spirit is joined by something even more formidable: advanced technology and powerful alliances that multiply Greece's natural advantages. Today, Greece's defenses are no longer limited to rugged terrain and ancient memory. The modern Hellenic state has built a shield of steel and firepower, turning geography into the backbone of one of Europe's most formidable formidable defensive systems. In the skies, Greece fields some of the most advanced aircraft in the region. Rafale F-3R fighters, upgraded F-16 Vipers, and the incoming F-35 stealth jets give the Hellenic Air Force a decisive edge in surveillance, precision strikes, and air superiority. Every approach to Greek territory is monitored, every movement tracked. For an invader, secrecy is nearly impossible. At sea, the Aegean has become what strategists call a fortified archipelago. Modern frigates, stealth submarines, and fast attack craft patrol waters already hostile by nature. Many islands now host anti-ship and anti-air missile systems, transforming rocky outcrops into unsinkable fortresses. Together, they create an anti-access zone where hostile fleets could be destroyed long before reaching the mainland. On land, Greece maintains layered air defenses, including systems modeled after Israel's Iron Dome. Early warning radars, coastal missile batteries, and mobile artillery create overlapping fields of fire that cover both the mainland and the islands. Geography provides the stage, but modern technology supplies the power. Yet Greece's shield extends beyond weapons. It rests on alliances. As a NATO member, Greece benefits from the security guarantee of the most powerful military bloc in history. Bilateral agreements, such as its defense pact with France, ensure that aggression against Greece could draw in forces far larger than its own. At the same time, partnerships with Israel, Egypt, and Cyprus strengthen its position in the eastern Mediterranean, weaving a network of deterrence across land and sea. For any invader, this creates a sobering calculation. To challenge Greece is not to fight one country alone. It is to fight geography, advanced technology, and potentially the combined weight of Europe and beyond. And yet, even with all these strengths, history reminds us that no fortress is truly unbreakable. Greece has been occupied before, but at such cost that the victory nearly destroyed the conqueror, which leads us to the paradox at the heart of Greece's story. Across history, Greece has been invaded and at times even occupied. The Persians marched in, the Ottomans ruled for centuries, and the Nazis planted their flag in Athens. Yet none of these powers held Greece without paying a devastating price. Here lies the paradox. Greece is not truly impossible to conquer, but it is almost impossible to keep. The mountains grind down armies, the seas scatter fleets, and the people themselves turn every village into a battlefield. Conquest demands enormous resources, yet occupation drains them faster than any empire can replenish. By the time the invader claims victory, their strength is already eroding. This is why Greece has been called a graveyard of ambitions. Even today, military strategists admit that the cost of attacking Greece far outweighs the reward. Modern defenses make an invasion staggeringly complex. NATO membership raises the stakes to global levels. And above all, the memory of resistance ensures that no occupier would ever sleep soundly on Greek soil. In this sense, Greece's greatest weapon is deterrence. The knowledge that the fight will be long, bloody, and uncertain makes potential aggressors think twice. The fortress may not be unbreakable, but it is designed to make the price of conquest unbearable. And so, the lesson of history continues. Greece does not simply defend itself with walls of stone or fleets of steel. It defends itself with the unyielding idea that freedom is worth any cost. For thousands of years, Greece has stood at the crossroads of empires, a small land facing giants that stretched across continents. Again and again, invaders came with overwhelming force. Again and again, they discovered that Greece is more than a country. It is a fortress shaped by mountains, seas, and the unbreakable will of its people. Persia, Rome, the Ottomans, fascist Italy, Nazi Germany all learned the same lesson. Conquering Greece is one thing, holding it is another. The land itself resists, the culture resists, and the cost of occupation always outweighs the prize. Today, with modern defenses and powerful alliances, Greece remains what it has always been, a challenge too costly to overcome. Perhaps that is the true meaning of invincibility. Not that defeat is impossible, but that victory cannot last. You have been watching Arahive, where history speaks. If this journey through Greece's untold strength fascinated you, please like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to our channel for more stories where history comes alive.